Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live morning news up here at Desawe Kanda. Also live on TV Ghana on Facebook. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, system disturbances at Great Coal, that's a Ghana Great Company Limited, disrupt power supply, plunging parts of the country into darkness. We seek further and better clarity and particulars from Great Coal on the extent of impact this would have. Meanwhile, let's hear from you. What's happening where you are? Also, the ECG has issued a statement we'll get into shortly. Also, Ghana Police Service suspends interdiction of the police officers allegedly involved in a plot to oust the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare. We have a conversation on what this means for the ongoing bipartisan probe and other matters arising. Also, multiple lawsuits hit the Electoral Commission of Ghana in a bid to injunct the scheduled limited voter registration exercise. We have the details of the suit for you, but will the EC go ahead with the exercise on Tuesday? We seek some answers. And tonight, over 600 pigs affected by African swine fever have been killed in the Kweu West municipality of the Eastern region. Is this a cause for worry? We have the veterinary services joining us tonight to have a conversation on these. As always, we're very, very interactive. Let's hear from you. If you go on our Facebook page, we're asking a question. Let's hear from you. What's happening where you are? If you are in Dumso, or there's darkness in your area as a result of the power outage or otherwise. We'll get some answers tonight. The hashtag is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Two private citizens have taken the Electoral Commission to court over the decision to hold the limited voters registration exercise at the district offices barely 24 hours after some 5 opposition political parties took a similar action. People protest in front of the White House on a daily basis. Does the Bank of Ghana require more security than the front of the White House? Those were the words of the Minority Chief Whip, Gavin Kwame Agbuja, after an Accra High Court had dismissed the minority's preliminary objection to the police's injunction suit against their protest to remove the Bank of Ghana governor and its deputies.
Protests in front of White House today, and people do it on daily basis. Is the Bank of Ghana more secure? They require more security than the front of Flagstaff House, than the front of Parliament. I think this is just as our colleagues have said.
The police service's handling of matters surrounding the leaked audio tape has been faulted by former COP Metodro retired. The service on Friday suspended the interdiction of 3 officers at the center of an alleged plot to oust the IGP. The plot contained on a leaked audio tape has been the subject of an ongoing inquiry in Parliament.
Do you know the outcome? Are you in a position to find out the outcome of the probe? So how do you say that we will take disciplinary action after the committee has finished its work? You don't know the result. You don't know the recommendation they will make. And so how do you jump the gun? So you see the wording. So there is basically something not right in the police service.
Government intends to go into partnership with the 10 fields partners for natural gas production to augment Ghana's power sector needs. President Akufo-Addo, who made this known at the commissioning of the first oil from the Jubilee Southeast called for equity for Ghanaians in the oil and gas sector.
The Local Content in Ghanaian Participation Law, LI 2204, that was passed in 2013, has been amended to include channel partnerships and strategic alliances in the upstream petroleum sector. Our position of local content is not just about supplying ancillary services to the sector, but also having a stake in the resources as well.
The West African Examination Council says it has uncovered widespread malpractices in the ongoing West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination (WASSCE). According to the council, the level of malpractices is so high to the extent that it is unable to put a figure to it. WAEC confirms that students, teachers and supervisors are involved in the illegality, adding that the situation is overwhelming. Some schools are reported to be charging their candidates between 500 cedis and 1,000 cedis to enable them get assistance during the examination. WAEC adds some proprietors have shown open hostility towards its monitoring teams and made attempts to bribe officials and personnel. The conduct of WASSCE in Ghana has over the years been fraught with several irregularities, including the smuggling of electronic gadgets into examination halls, leakage of papers, and impersonation of scripts, among others.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, system disturbances at the Ghana Grid Company Limited, that's Gridco, and disrupt power supply, plunging parts of the country into darkness. We seek further and better particulars from Gridco itself on the extent of the impact this will have, and a number of you have been sharing your experiences and what happened minutes, just about 2-3 hours ago in many parts of the capital. Electricity Company of Ghana has just issued a statement. They've been explaining the reason for the power outage, and they point to a number of things. We're going to put the ECG statement on the screen right now. This is what the ECG is saying in their statement. They say the Electricity Company of Ghana wishes to inform the general public, especially cherished customers, that the outage being experienced as a result of a technical challenge emanating from Gridco. That's the explanation of ECG, that this is as a result of a technical challenge emanating from Gridco. Electricity Company of Ghana wishes to assure affected customers that immediately the technical challenge is rectified, power supply will be restored. ECG regrets the inconvenience caused to affected customers. Very typical of the last paragraph of every statement from ECG. So let's understand what this technical challenge is all about. Jifa Bampo is head of corporate communications at the Ghana Grid Company Limited. She's joining us on the telephone. I thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. What is this technical challenge that has led to this darkness in most parts of the capital? In fact, other parts of the country, we're hearing eastern and then also the western region as well, reporting cases of darkness.
Hello, Alfred. Good evening. So I would rather seek to address what Gridco has issued in its statement. What we have said in our statement is that we've experienced a system disturbance. So a system disturbance occurred on the national interconnected transmission system, and that is the reason why there was the outage that you make reference to. So the more appropriate term is a system disturbance. Okay,
so I make reference to the ECG statement, which they describe as a technical challenge. So if you say system disturbance, what does it mean? What accounted for that?
Currently, there's an analysis ongoing to determine the source and the cause. So I'm not able to give you that information today. It's likely we'll have that update tomorrow. But essentially, we apologize to customers for what happened, because this was not something that was planned. It was an emergency, something that happened suddenly. So it's not as if the idea was that people were going to go off today in that quantum. So essentially, the engineers have been working on it, and we will get the details of the analysis until tomorrow.
I see. And when did you get notice of this system disturbance? At what point exactly in the day?
At 19:03 p.m., which is 7:03 p.m. Ghana time.
And is there any indication of the estimated time of completion of this, the rectification of the system disturbance, at least from your engineers?
So hopefully, before the night runs out, everybody should be back online. As of 9 p.m., which is an hour ago, 2/3 of customers were restored. So what does happen is when there's a system disturbance, we lose generation. And once generation goes off, it becomes a slight delay to restore the generation, because these are power plants that are using either fuel or they're using gas, and it takes some time for the plants to ramp up. And so that is why sometimes there's a slight delay in restoring power to every single person. So once again, we apologize for this incident that has occurred. This is something that is really out of our control. It's not something that was expected or planned. It was an emergency situation, and the engineers have been working. They continue to work in the control room with our directors to ensure that everyone is restored appropriately.
I see. Now, we're receiving messages from people in the eastern and western region, obviously most parts of the Greater Accra region as well. But do you have an idea of the extent of this, the impact of this system disturbance across the country?
I know that it was widespread. I know it was quite widespread in the Ashanti region, western region, the northern sector, Greater Accra. So it's quite widespread. The last time we had this significant spread was in January. If you recall, we had a line that tripped, and because of that, we lost other lines and there was no generation. And it took quite some time, about 4 hours, to restore everyone. And this is really just because the majority of the plants use gas, they use liquid fuel. It does take some time for them to ramp up. The only generators that restore in an instant is Akosombo Dam and to some extent Blue Dam. And these are because they are hydro plants. And so it's not typically the norm to lose everyone across the country. So it means when it happens, it's a serious action that has occurred, and work is ongoing. Alfred. Okay,
so all things being equal, by latest morning, we should all be back on stream, having lights in our homes.
That's the expectation, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time here on Ghana Tonight. Jifa Bampo is the corporate communications manager of the Ghana Grid Company Limited, giving us details. So if you are watching us on your phone, that's on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, the reason why we're experiencing the power outage in your home, and it's in fact we're receiving messages from most parts of the Greater Accra region, and then also the Ashanti region, the eastern region, the western region. And this is as a result of what the GridCo has just issued a statement, which Jifa Bampo has been speaking to. They said there's a system disturbance. But the ECG described it as a technical challenge, but they have, GridCo described this as a system disturbance. The National Interconnected Transmission System informs the public that a system disturbance occurred at a little over 7 p.m. earlier today, affecting parts of the country. So they say by morning, all things being equal, we should have the lights back. So that's the timeline that we're working with. And if it's not back at the time, we'll definitely go back to GridCo and seek some more answers to what's happening. So that's the update on the power outages being experienced in most parts of Accra. And we acknowledge the messages we're getting on our Facebook page as well. Thank you very much. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, multiple lawsuits hit the Electoral Commission of Ghana in a bid to injunct the scheduled limited voter registration exercise. We have the details of the suit for you, but will the Electoral Commission go ahead with the exercise? We have some answers. Stay with us. So, before the day got into the evening, as a matter of fact, at about 11 a.m., we saw the first suit against the Electoral Commission by a private citizen. Then around 5 p.m., the second suit came through. Remember, this is after the NDC and 4 other political parties also sought an injunction on the Electoral Commission to prevent it from going ahead with the advertised limited voter registration exercise, which they say would begin on the 12th of September, which is this coming Tuesday. Now, 2 private citizens have brought separate suits against the Electoral Commission, praying the court to place an injunction on the Electoral Commission's limited voter registration exercise scheduled to start on Tuesday. The crux of their cases is that the EC district centers where they are supposed to register is far from their homes or offices, and they cannot afford to travel there to get registered. They argue that they, by the EC's conduct, they are likely to be disenfranchised. And in the case of Ayita, Precious Ayita, now who resides at Ochebleku near Afienya in the Greater Accra region. We're going to put that suit on the screen right now. This is Precious's suit against the Electoral Commission. So if you look at the distance between her, where this person lives, Precious, and the Afienya district office of the EC, located at Pram Pram, she's saying the distance that the residence and the EC office is about 44.3 kilometers. Now, that's what the challenge is. Now, we're going to go through and take a look at some of the indications and reason why a number of concerns have been raised. This is Precious Ayita's suit that you have there that also indicates exactly what is happening and why they are raising the fundamental concerns. He's saying that the distance between her house and the EC office is 44.3 kilometers using the Accra-Aflao Road and 37.3 kilometers using the Akonsombo-Accra Road. Now, we've tried to look up these places on the Google map, and we found very interesting indications of how things are playing out, and especially because of the specific areas that they mention. Now, in the case of Agbenoto Mercy, she's also saying that she is a resident of Wuli Toji in the Volta region, and that it's about 34 kilometers away from the Electoral Commission District Office, which is located at Hohoi, and that the journey involves using mountainous footpaths. She says that the same journey in the over 100 kilometers long using Leklebi Paleme, which involves the going through the Togo as well. In fact, you have to go through Togo to get there. We have that copy of the second suit as well, Mercy's suit. This is what we received around 5 p.m. So there are 2 private citizens who have sought a motion to injunct the Electoral Commission that earlier advertised period to start the limited voter registration exercise. Now, let's hear from the counsel for one of the 2 private citizens. Precious counsel, that's Nick Papo Samoa Ado, private legal practitioner, giving details of why it is essential for the Electoral Commission to admit this particular motion, because they have, according to the lawyers of these two private citizens, the EC has been served. And so there's precedence that even though their cases are, these cases of the injunction are going to be heard in October, and another one on the 18th of September, even though the process is to start on the 12th of September, the AC, based on precedence, can suspend the exercise and put measures in place to ensure that the right thing is done. Let's take a listen to Nick Samuado, and we'll hear from him shortly on what has to be done and what the way forward is going forward, especially with respect to the concerns that these private citizens have raised in their suit, and why the Electoral Commission, in their view, in fact, the second respondent in this particular suit is the Attorney General, should take into consideration the concerns raised that the distance will be a challenge for most people to take part in this limited voter registration exercise. Bear in mind, the limited registration exercise did not take place in 2021 and in 2022. So there's a backlog of a number of people who are waiting to be also registered in 2023. And all those two suits, both the Electoral Commission and the Attorney General, are joint respondents to this suit, the motion on notice for an order of interlocutory injunction pursuant to Order 25, Rule 1 or CI 47. So let's hear from Nick Samuado, who is counsel for Precious.
If you remember, in the case of Omna before, the EC was very clear that once it has been served with the process, it cannot proceed. And so we expect that once it has been served with the process, it has to wait for the court to adjudicate upon the matter before it can proceed.
So you expect that that same principle will apply in this instance?
It has to apply. The EC has to be consistent, because that is the essence of the application. The application is to ensure that they open up the registration centers to enable people who otherwise would not be able to simply go and register. See, it's a very simple issue. Mr. Ocansey, you recall that when we even had to register for the new electoral rule, and even for all the periods that you have registered as a voter, what is the distance between your polling station where you registered or the electoral area where you registered and your residence, Mr. Ocansey? I'm sure it's a walking distance.
Indeed.
It's clearly a walking distance. And so it is a very simple plea. It's a very simple plea. And I understand they have been said. So we expect them to respect their own precedent and also to listen to the voice of reason. Every single voter up until now has always been registered within your electoral area, at least within a walking distance. Why do we have to be, why do you want to put people through the pain? Especially my clients who literally, because of transportation costs, cannot afford the cost of moving from one point to the other. The distance between, and we've articulated the distances. We've articulated the distances. My client lives in a site at Uchebleku, near Athenia. The distance between the district office, okay, and her residence, that the district office is in Pampam, is 44.3 kilometers. And if you use the Accra-Aflao road, it is 37.3 kilometers. So how many people can afford transportation to go on and just to exercise a constitutional right to be registered? Come on. The EC has to listen to reason. All we are asking, if the EC can pay, or the EC will take their machines to a house to be registered, fine. A very simple request. She cannot afford it. And the fact that she cannot afford transportation cannot be the reason why she should be denied a constitutional right to be registered.
Well, so that's Nick Samuado. Spoke to him earlier today. He's a counsel for Precious, one of two private citizens who have sought an injunction on the Electoral Commission to prevent it from going ahead with the limited voter registration exercise beginning Tuesday, September 12th. Now, I want to show you the Google Map representation of one of the two private citizens, the concern that this is Messi raised about the distance. So, because this is Precious's suit, the distance Afienya, and then also where the EC electoral office is, the district office is at Pram Pram. So that's about 51 minutes if you're using a vehicle, and obviously if there's no traffic. This is the representation on the Google Map, and we captured this when there was no traffic, and so you would see that most of the areas are blue. But that's the fundamental concern. Now let's take a look at this is Precious. Let's take a look at Messi's distance, because the distance is one of the topical issues they raise in the suit against the EC. Look at Messi. Messi is at Bli, around the Bli waterfalls area, and she has to go all the way to Hohoi, where the EC district office is. This is the representation on the Google Map. Now, just bear in mind that the Google Map will give you the shortest route to the destination. It doesn't capture the state of the road network, which she has indicated is mountainous. And then in some areas, they have to go through Togo to get to this EC district office in Hohoi, where she is. And then it's a big deal. And that's why the concern that they raise in there. So we'll see how things play out in the coming days. But coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the West African Examinations Council uncovered widespread malpractices in the ongoing West African Senior Certificate Examinations, that's WASSCE. We hear from education think tanks who have been raising this concern over the years, and nothing really seems to be changing. Now, let's establish this. The West African Examinations Council earlier today indicated that it has uncovered widespread malpractices in the ongoing West African Senior Certificate Examination, that's WASSCE. According to the council, the level of malpractices is so high to the extent it is unable to put a figure to it. In fact, why it confirms that students and teachers and supervisors are involved in the illegality, adding that the situation is overwhelming. Some schools are reported to be charging their candidates between 500 cedis and 1,000 cedis to enable them get assistance during the exam. So WAEC also adds some proprietors have shown open hostility towards its monitoring teams amid attempts to try and address the situation. And that's where the concern is. Now, Kofi Asare is the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch. He's joining us on Zoom for a conversation tonight. Kofi, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Last year, I mean, you see these issues of the leakage of exams actually going down with this WASSCE. Now we're seeing it resurface. This malpractice has taken a different turn. What's going on?
I'm not too surprised at all that we are recording various numbers of examination hall collusion, between students, supervisors, and invigilators, etc. It is a natural response to the blockage of the leakages of questions, which was occasioned by the intervention of the Ministry of Education with support from the BNI. So since the questions are not leaking, you would expect that the practitioners in this illicit, enterprise would definitely find another way to maintain their business. And by so doing, they have strengthened their participation in the collusion business, where in some of the schools, students pay money to the teachers to the invigilators so that they're able to assure them of supervised cheating. They're allowed to take the examination to take their mobile phones into the examination hall, copy from their phones, ask other teachers on standby, solve the questions, and then transmit the answers onto the WhatsApp platform. This is so common and regular. I mean, it's been reported in all our WASI reports since 2021, and captured in the documentary, the Corruption Watch documentary, which was done last year. And so these are very, very common, practices. And so yes, leak questions are not leaking. The ministry, in collaboration with WAEC, has introduced serialization such that various sets of questions are distributed within the same examination hall. But because you still have invigilators and supervisors who have an interest in the outcome of the examination participating in invigilation, you will have that level of collusion between them and candidates who are desperate to pass. And that is what, according to WAEC, is happening. And that is what we are also witnessing in the schools that we are monitoring the WASI from.
So even though the serialization has been done, which has dealt with the issues of the leakage before the exam, the centers being the places where the cheating going on has not been dealt with, is it not? Because this incentive to cheat is still there.
Layers to the examination fraud menace. The first layer is the leakage, okay, which have been blocked. The second layer is the examination malpractice that takes place in the examination room, where students copy from either their phones or they are allowed to take foreign materials into the room and copy. And then the third layer is where teachers solve questions, for students, Now, if you block the examination, the leakages, you solve one aspect of the problem. But for you to put the finger on the examination center collusion, we have recommended to the Ministry of Education since 2021 that WAEC must have their appointed supervisors in every examination center to solve or to put a finger on the examination hall collusion. Because our experience is that insofar as what we call external supervisors comprise GES staff and WAEC staff, where WAEC staff are not available and the external supervisors are from GES. And in 80% of the case, the external supervisors are from GES. If that occurs, we don't see that as external, because whether you're a teacher in the school or you're a GES staff supervising from the district education office or region, you are still a GES staff, just like the teacher in the school or the head teacher, and you have an interest in the performance of the students. So it's very, very difficult to disconnect, that possible conflict of interest, I'm being honest. And that is why we have recommended that WAEC's own appointed external supervisors, who are just 20% of the total number of supervisors
I see.
Last year's data.
Say 20%, but how many centers are these WAEC, that's WASI, taking place in? And how many of these centers have WAEC officials present? Kofi?
That out of 776 centers, WAEC had external supervisors in 145 or so, which meant that WAEC was available in only 20% of the centers. The meaning is that in the 80% of the centers that WAEC is not available at all material times during an examination paper, anything can happen. This is an external examination. WASI is a terminal examination, okay? And so one would expect that WAEC should have the capacity and the resources to deploy its own appointed supervisors to supervise the invigilation that takes place by the GNES staff in the schools. But given the capacity constraint of WAEC and its ability to deploy only 20% of what is required, you will definitely have problems, with conflicting interests in some schools. And that is what is manifesting by way of the collusion. Where WAEC external supervisors have been deployed, per our experience in the past 3 years of monitoring WASI, it is difficult for collusion to take place in the examination hall between the invigilators and the candidates. But immediately there is no WAEC external supervisor, it is a field day in most of the schools. And so for us, we are clear in our mind, and we have recommended in our WASI reports of 2022 and 2021 that the Ministry of Education will have to support WAEC to be able to deploy its external supervisors, in addition to the existing GES invigilators and supervisors, so that there will be an external eye in every center. And we believe that that will be the best way to bring under control the reports of institutionalized collusion in examination centers. The key issue is that if government has been able to deploy the BNI to take over the question security and the questions are no more leaking, which is great, and government has facilitated the process of serializing questions so that it's not easy to get questions, which is great, it will be an icing on the cake for government to invest in deploying WAEC external supervisors to all centers so that we bring this matter to a comprehensive finality. But as it is now, in many of the schools that we are monitoring, just as WAEC is saying, there are various forms of malpractices taking place in the examination hall. But Alfred, let me quickly add that one of the reasons why we are still having this collusion in the examination centers taking place is because we haven't been punitive enough. And I'm talking about the GES. You see, I have seen teachers who participated in examination malpractice, teachers who openly stood in the examination room and recited answers to questions during a management in living paper, in a senior high school in the Bono area, in Ashanti region area, St. Jerome. Okay, I have seen this captured on camera in one of our documentaries, and only found out that the teacher suddenly became an assistant headmaster also. The punishment that was meted out to the teacher after our investigation, was virtually a caution. A caution. It means that particular action of the teacher was seen as a minor misconduct per the GES code of conduct. So if all you do to a teacher who participates in this level of fraud will be to caution the teacher, and the teacher within 5 or 4 years' time, manages to become an assistant headmaster academic, then I'm sorry, the GES code of conduct, is not punitive enough when it comes to their own staff participating in examination malpractice. And so, as government works to continue to block the leakage of questions and invest in the deployment of more WAEC appointed supervisors to all centers, it is important for the GES to punish their staff who are caught who are seen to participating in this enterprise, and punish them severely, not just giving them caution or
something of the sort. Kofi, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. The severe punishment is what you propose. In fact, it's not far away, this severe punishment you talk about and the interventions that you expect the WAEC to put in place, or in fact the GES to put in place. The Minister of Education, when I sat with him some time ago, raised questions about the WAEC's own processes, and then also what is happening at the various exam centers and what has to be done. Take a look.
WAEC have many proposals as to how you solve this problem. I'm concerned that some of their solutions will not work.
WAEC solutions will not work?
When you talk about recruit ambassadors who preach the children not to cheat, it's not going to work. WAEC must wake up and smell the coffee. And we're going to get them to wake up and smell the coffee.
You get WAEC to wake up?
Oh, yes. I said it. We've told them, and we're going to tell them again, that you have to remove the incentive for cheating. The incentive for cheating has to be eliminated. And yes, we do these exams with West Africa, right? So when I make proposal as Minister for Education, because the President at the State of the Nation said leakages, examination malpractice should be eliminated in this country, I go to work on it. When I make a proposal, because in the whole West Africa, it has to go through a system. That is why I cut them a slack. But you know that last year, examination leakages so far as BEC is concerned was eliminated. How was it eliminated? They did what we've been telling them to do, which is called serialization. Parallel exams. Sit in the room with you. We have different questions. Different regions with different questions. So last year when the BEC started, the people who create the rogue website, so that is why I'm saying sometimes their proposal, they have to get to the bottom of it. They've been lamenting about rogue websites, right? Where people create and they sell examination questions, right? They have invested time and effort, national security, everybody worried about rogue website. But how is it that the rogue website were pulled down last year by the people who created them? Because WAEC removed the incentive for cheating by creating different exams for different regions of the country. So the moment these people saw that the questions were different across the country, they themselves issued a statement on their website and say it didn't work out. And that was the end of rogue website. The developer themselves pulled it down. So what I'm saying is this. We are going to forge ahead and demand that at the West Africa Examination Council WASI level, right? The same thing that they did with BEC that put to bed leakages can be done. And we are demanding that it should come all the way to a level where you have parallel exams within the hall. That I'm sitting with you, my question 1 may be your question 20. And even when the questions are the same.
Well, that's Education Minister, but coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the Ghana Police Service has suspended its interdiction of police officers allegedly involved in the plot to oust the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare. We have a conversation on what this means for the ongoing bipartisan probe and matters arising. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
I want you so bad, Alfred Ocansey. I want you. I wanna say yes, I can't resist. I want you. Ooh, I want you, Alfred Ocansey. I want you so bad, Alfred Ocansey.
Don't me call one casa. Have a goodness rich in milk and butter, in
Alpha Cracker. Yummy and deliciously crunchy.
But I can't resist you.
Alpha Crackers. Simply irresistible.
This advert is FDA approved.
Who wins the Ultimate Energy Personality of the Year at the 7th edition of your prestigious Ghana Energy Awards? Under the theme, Ghana's Energy Transition Framework, Sector Institutions as Building Block for the 2030 to 2040 target. You can nominate yourself or an institution for categories such as CEO of the Year, Energy Investment Impact Award, Energy Signature Award, Endorsement, Validation, Industry Partners, Media Partners, TV3, Ghana Energy Awards, 7 years of redefining excellence.
Everybody knows Acrobato. And if you know Acrobato, it means you know M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic is my pillar. Let's hear what others are saying about M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. Who will be careful M-Punch one?
Chesena me ankasa me period na se problems wom ntina ma wo ho idea ma me papa chesena nya asem ketewa na me coin point no mo hwe me mogam no mo he bibia na so mo meduro me fire no ene ma won kra me nu foforo kwa na me kwan mu a eba
and everything yourself
me ma me no adwodwo eda ho a wontumi nante ene ne ko end point o mama nuru a ene ne ho idea watimi asori anante.
That's end point for you of Acrobato. Hello hey ohwehwe what che okay a free bra wo di end point wa dance am me call you no me Jones sema na enkoyie empeso na ma yemre nyina na magina sebema na me be fie for there e ho na nyina jaresa. You heard everything. I have secret. M-Punch is my secret. M-Punch Homeopathic Clinic. I'm free.
This week on Today's Woman, our guest is Mrs. Joan Kwe Mensah. She's thrived in the real estate industry over the last 5 years and is still thriving.
People think the way the economy is, real estate is going to slow down. But trust me, people are buying properties, people are renting, and real estate is not slowing down anytime soon.
She's here to teach us many lessons, especially when it comes to buying properties off plan. But first off, Joan, off plan, what does that mean?
It means acquiring the property before it's built. You get to get the property at a lower rate.
Lower rate. Don't miss Today's Woman this Saturday, 3 p.m. right here on TV3. My name is Cookie. See you on Saturday.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Latex Foam.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. Up next, the Ghana Police Service suspends interdiction of police officers allegedly involved in the plot to have the president remove the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare. And we have a copy of that statement that was issued earlier today, communicating the suspension of the interdiction of COP, that's Alex Mensah, also Superintendent Asari, and then also Superintendent Emmanuel JB. Says, in connection with the leaked audio tape, the police administration would commence disciplinary action proceedings into their conduct upon completion of the ongoing probe by Parliament. In order not to prejudice the ongoing probe, the police administration has suspended their interdiction. So say they are suspending it because of some questions about prejudice, and that they will now resume or commence disciplinary proceedings into the conduct of these officers upon completion of the ongoing probe by Parliament. But a number of questions have been raised about this latest development with respect to this case. Adib Sani, security analyst, has been following this quite closely. Adib, looking into your security lenses, how does this impact on this entire episode of the leaked audio, this decision by the police to suspend an interdiction earlier communicated?
Well, it is obviously an indication of the fact that the interdiction was not well thought through before it was put out there. And it's also an indication of the fact that we seem to do things emotionally driven rather than practicality. the interdiction and its subsequent so-called suspension is a monumental disgrace that shouldn't have allowed, and that is also indicative of the administrative hiccups within the police service. Besides, COP Alex Mensah would be going on retirement this month. So when you say that the interdiction has been suspended, it beats my imagination. Because by the time you return, he might have, been on retirement. So I would have expected that the interdiction stays or is completely lifted. It doesn't make sense to say it has been, suspended within the current scheme of things, owing to COP Alex Mensah going on retirement. So the whole thing is quite confusing, and it makes me wonder where the decision to interdict them came from in the first place. Because some of us have indicated clearly without mincing words that it was ill-timed. It was the wrong move to take at this particular time when there is a parliamentary ad hoc committee that is looking into the matter, and the possibility of you undermining its work is very high. Even though some have stated that, the committee's work is independent of the police and vice versa, but I think there are still some linkages, and the interdiction could go a long way to scare people from appearing before the committee right, or from giving evidence.
I see, but Adib, there's also this other development of this latest video that's making the rounds. It captures an old man that's referred to in the video, or appears to be Bugri Nabu, and then also some other persons in the conversation. And then also now bringing up other concerns that raises fundamental questions about Bugri Nabu and the reported relationship with the Ghana Police Service. How should the committee treat this latest revelation, and do their terms of reference also give them that mandate to do so?
Yes, apart from the committee looking into the authenticity of the tape and investigating the conspiracy behind an intention to remove the IGP for political expedience, they also have that wider mandate to look into any other issue related to the tape and make recommendations, even if it involves, police reforms and all that. So it's within their mandate to do so. But I don't think the committee is powerful enough to go deeper, as the new issues really send shock waves down the very fabric of the Ghanaian society. This has become a major public issue that would demand, a very deliberate investigation. So, for example, they're talking about contracts, where some rules broken. They are talking about the police paying Bugri Nabu 10,000 cedis every month. On what basis? So this is becoming more criminal by the day. All right? And there's another video in which Bugri Nabu, it's an audio recording, in which Bugri Nabu confessed and allegedly mentioned that it was IGP who sent boys to his office to install the gadgets. Sorry?
Yes. I was just stating that we haven't heard that, but the preview to that.
It's there. I'll share it with your production team.
So, Adib, in the end, maybe in 30 seconds, what has to be done going forward with all of this that's coming up?
Well, I think immediately the committee would have to reconvene, and all necessary contacts will be made. Because in the videos we have seen Bugri Nabu engaged in a conversation with different people. There's this other one that was more like a phone call, and the person was even threatening him. Let's find out who these people are and what information they would have to tell the committee. I think immediately IGP Dampari should also be invited to give his side of the story, because his name has now taken precedence over any other name.
Right.
And it's only fair that we get to hear what he has to say.
Adibai, thank you so much. Adib Sani is security analyst. We're coming up next here on Ghana Tonight. Over 600 pigs affected by the African swine fever have been killed in the Kwewu West municipality of the Eastern region. This is cause for worry. That's a question that many have been asking about this particular development and what the way forward is. And to give you an idea of the African swine fever, we went to these communities earlier to speak to some of the farmers who have been affected by this. Take a look.
To be patient and do not allow any new pig to come to your farm. Do not move your pigs. Do not sell the pigs within Kwewu West. We are organizing a seminar for the farmers.
The Kwewu West Municipal Agriculture Director, Francis Dogbache, urged all pig farmers to quickly report any symptoms to veterinary officers to avoid widespread.
Though it's not harmful, it is not zoonotic. It is something we need to manage in order to contain it. And also, he was a nominee we shortlisted for the regional livestock best farmer for the 39th edition of the National Farmers Day. We were only waiting for the inspection team.
So, let me give you an idea of this African swine fever and questions as to whether it is harmful to humans. We got this information from the Veterinary Services Department. Dr. Benjamin Sesu helped us with this information. Take a look. This is what we were giving based on that information. First off, African swine fever, ASF, is a highly contagious viral disease of domestic and wild pigs whose mortality rate can reach 100%. It is not a danger to human health, but it has devastating effects on pig populations and the farming economy. There's currently no effective vaccine against ASF, and the virus is highly resistant in the environment, meaning that it can survive on clothes, boots, wheels, and other materials. And it can also survive in various pork products, such as ham, sausages, or bacon. Therefore, human behaviors can also play an important role in spreading this pig disease across borders if adequate measures are not taken. So these are the basics. And African swine fever is not a threat to human health and cannot be transmitted from pigs to humans. The symptoms: high temperature of about 40.5 degrees or 105 degrees Fahrenheit, vomiting, diarrhea, sometimes bloody. This is in pigs, not humans, pigs. Reddening or darkening of the skin, particularly ears and the snout. Also gummed up eyes, labored breathing and coughing, abortion, stillbirths and weak litters, and weakness and unwillingness to stand. This is in pigs, the symptoms, you see that. And well, I want to thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight, and make a date with me together with the team and our guest tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. on Key Point. And these are the people who will be joining us tomorrow morning for Key Point. Sami Jemfi, National Communications Officer of the NDC, and also a Vincent Asifwa, is a Member of Parliament for the Old Trafford constituency, and Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner, and Professor Enoch Opoku Enchi is a governance and leadership expert, and would have some security analysts also joining us via Zoom, and Dr. Asasante, a political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, will also be joining us. We have three major topics: Alan Chomanting withdrawing from the NPP race and the matters arising with the EC, and then also the voter registration exercise, and also the leak tape saga. Thank you so much for staying with us. Join me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.